Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. It is me, Megan, and I'm here to talk to you guys about my last 5 library books. Ugh. This is them. I still can't tell if I'm in focus or not. I'm having some difficulties. I think that's okay. I think. Anyways, so let's just dump. I can't speak today. Let's just jump right into it. Alright, the first book was Dominos at the Crossroads by K.E. Kello. This is the book. This was nominated for the long list Canada Reads 2022 book list, and I really wish I had known going into this book that these were short stories and that they weren't connected to each other. I mean, they were loosely connected to each other, but I was reading it more as like a continuous story, and I was really confused a lot of the time because things they obviously didn't continue on. They were short individual stories that feeded into a whole story. So that kind of took away the enjoyment for me, but I still thought this had really good writing. The author wrote himself into the story as a character, so that was also a tiny bit confusing because I'm like, wait, what's going on? And it takes place between different periods and different times. So like you're talking about like 1800s, 1600s, and then you're talking about way in the future. This book encompasses a lot of ground. But so even in this, it says this collection of short stories. His characters navigate race, history, and coming of age by way of their confessions and dreams, and that's a very, very accurate representation of what this book is. It's all of those factors coming in and just playing different parts in different time periods. So it was very interesting to read. Those were my thoughts. The next book I read was Tosh Hearts Tolstoy by Catherine Ormsby. Okay, so apparently her name is not pronounced Tash, it's pronounced Tosh, because there's a scene in this book where she gets mad at one of the main characters for pronouncing her name wrong, and I was like, the entire time I'm like, Tash in my head, and then she's like, oh, he pronounced it like Tash, like Ash, and I'm like, well, how do you pronounce it? She's like, it's Tosh, and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So this is Tosh Hearts Tolstoy. So this book is about Tosh, who is a YouTuber, and with her fellow friends, they've all come together with her love of Tolstoy, good old Tolstoy here, and they've created a short story, or not short story, but they've created like a short web series based off of one of his very famous novels, Anna Karenina. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I see it everywhere. But that book. So they create this thing, it gets nominated for a YouTube award, and so she's got all these things going on. What I really liked about this book was that how many layers there were. So it wasn't just Tosh and her best friends making a YouTube web series. It was like learning about her as a person, learning about her with her best friends, her with other people, her with her online friends. It was just, there was so many different layers to this book that made it so heartwarming. I was like, damn, it just was like so easy to fall in love with these characters, and just I don't know what else to say other than this was fun. I rated this 4 stars. I forgot to say that I rated this one 3 stars. So this was a 3, this was a 4 star. I highly recommend this one. So check it out if you haven't already. Then the next book I read was The Screaming Statue by Lauren Oliver. So this is book 2. Woo! So this is book 2 in the almost dropped the book, in the Curiosity House trilogy. So if you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I've talked about this series before. The first book didn't really intrigue me, but this book, actually, the characters were more fleshed out this time, and I actually enjoyed reading about them because we finally got to see more of them. Like, even the mystery in this novel, which was someone that was actually really close to these characters, these kids, they got murdered, and so obviously the kids are like, oh, we have to find out who murdered this person who's like their grandfather. So the fact that the murder was close to them, like, opened up a whole world for the reader to learn more about them, and and even learning about the murder, it tied into another, like it weaved the plot of another mystery about their origin and how they got all of their superpowers, their strengths. I don't know what to call them, but it tied into that as well. So there was a lot of things that really tied together and actually made the story very interesting. And now I understand a lot more than I did in the first one. I think the first one was probably to grip the reader into the trilogy, but it didn't do that for me. But the second book really tied things together, so I'm interested to see where the third book is going to go. So I rated this one 3 stars, and I actually did enjoy it, so I'm happy about that. The fourth book I read was The Backward Season by Lauren Miracle, and again, such a cozy looking cover. This was the final book in the Wishing Day trilogy, and so this did take place. This was the Last Sisters, in the Last Sisters' point of view, which I thought was going to be it. But she also shared it with another character who we've seen bits and pieces of throughout the series, but I think it was a little too late to have her point of view, because it was like we should have been seeing this character like way in the beginning, like her point of view way in the beginning, because now it seems like, well, you're using it just to wrap this up, and it felt too fast, and it was like you could have done this so much better by introducing her in the beginning so that she's not such a mystery, because every time she's brought up, this one character is brought up, it's always like, well, maybe she exists, maybe she doesn't exist, and it's like you can't just have this mysterious character and have your whole story basically wrapped around this character, but there's nothing like holding this character. So that's what really peeved me about this, but I did end up rating this 3 stars because it was fun to read. The third sister was really cute. I liked how she loved science and just like time traveling, and how her love for time travel weaved into her plot and into her wishing days, because she ends up using her wishing days to help save her mom. Like, it was actually like, it did bring the story to a close. I think it brought it to a close a little faster than it needed to be. I can see why the author chose for this to be a trilogy, because there are 3 sisters, but there could have been a 4th book to just really wrap everything up better. This, I think, did it too fast, but I digress. This was a 3-star read for me. Do I recommend this trilogy? Probably to children. I feel like if I read this as a kid, because this is for 8 to 12-year-olds, I think they probably wouldn't have had all of the qualms that I have, because I'm an adult and notice these things. They wouldn't have noticed these things, probably. I'm sure at 12 I wouldn't have. I would have been like, great book. And the last book that I read was Lucky in Love by Casey West. We're gonna end, we'll start with, I rated this 3 stars. It was fast-paced. I was interested, but I was also bored. So basically, this is about our main character, Maddie, who just turns 18. Her birthday was a flop. She's having a lot of money trouble, so she impulsively buys a lottery ticket. And guess what? She wins the lottery! Oh my god! And so, obviously, it takes on what a teenager spends money on when they win the lottery. She won $30 million, and now she's throwing yacht parties. She's giving money away to her parents, her brothers, people she doesn't know. She doesn't know who to trust anymore, because everyone's just coming to her for money. And it was great because that felt very realistic to a teenager winning the lottery. Like, you got all this money and you're like, well, what do I do? I mean, there are adults who win the lottery and go, well, what do I do with all this money? But what I didn't like was that her parents didn't help her. Like, she needed financial help and guidance, and her parents basically kept going to her and asking her for money, as if it was an allowance. Like, oh, and it was like, no, you're her parents. You're not, I get that it's her money and she's 18, but at the same time, you're her parents, and she's a high school student still. You can still have, I feel like there still is that balance where you can still help them without making it seem like you're going to them going to your child to ask for money. I don't know if I said that properly, but I just thought that was really strange that her parents were just super hands off on that, especially when her parents kept fighting about money. I don't know. And I got bored to read all of the things. Like, I was like, okay, we get it. You did this, you did that, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a romance plot in this, but it got squashed by the money plot because she works with this guy, and she's afraid to tell him that she won the lottery because she's afraid that he's going to change the way that he sees her. But he basically knows, but nobody's saying anything, and so it's always this like looming plot that it's like money. But so I wanted them to have cute little dates, but money kept looming over it. So it was like, so that's why I only rated this 3 stars. It was just kind of like, okay, cool story. So those were my last 5 library books. I feel like I rambled on for a very long time in this one. Oops, my bad. I hope you get to the end of this video. So that book did a total flip. This one plus this one are my last 5 library books. That is all I have for you guys today. Until next time, like, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment, a subscribe, do your thing, and I will see you all in my next video, which will probably be me talking about my next 5 library books. So I will see you all in the next video. So bye guys.